So without a doubt, one of the most important things you need to have if you want to have a successful headshot business or portrait studio is an awesome makeup artist. And finding a great makeup artist can be a challenge, but it is not impossible. And I'm going to give you some surefire ways today that you can find someone awesome to work with. Okay, so let's first talk about where do you go to find a makeup artist? Now, there's a number of places you can go to look for potential makeup artists to work with. The place that I usually go to that's worked very well for me is a Facebook group for New York photographers, models, makeup artists. So I would start there. Go into a group for people in our industry in your area on Facebook and just put a post out there that you're looking for a makeup artist. Another place you can go is sites like Model Mayhem, but of course you want to be very careful on a site like that because there's a lot of creeps on there and there's a lot of people who are not professionals and they're just looking for pretty people to photograph for nefarious reasons. So I'll leave that at that. You know what I mean by that. But you can go on Model Mayhem, and I've had some success there finding makeup artists and also models. What I like to do is if I find someone on there I'm interested to work with, I will vet them outside of there. So I'll make sure they have a real Instagram presence and a real Facebook presence. And then I'll reach out to them and kind of get a feel for the person before I decide to actually book something. So if you're going to go that route, just be a little bit more careful. Now, a third place you can find a makeup artist is just look for beauty schools in your area. And I've had success this way too. If you Google beauty schools and beautician schools in your area, you can just send them an email and they have plenty of makeup artists that they're training and they might be able to recommend someone to you. Okay, so after you've actually found someone that you feel like, okay, this person looks like someone I'd like to work with, the thing you don't want to do is hire that person for an actual shoot without setting up a test shoot. And now most makeup artists will be happy to do a test shoot because they realize that this is kind of a standard in our industry. But if it's someone who you really, really want to work with and they look that great, I would even pay them for their time. And sometimes I've done that. If I wanted to do a test shoot, I'll pay the makeup artist sometimes. But usually they're not going to expect to be paid. They know that this is kind of just to see if you guys can work together. So it's imperative that you set up a test shoot for a number of reasons. So let's talk briefly about why. The first reason is that most makeup artists know a ton of models. So if you find a makeup artist that you're willing to work with and you set up a test shoot, a lot of times you can just ask them, do you know a model who'd be willing to model for us? Now, this benefits everybody because models or actors are always looking for headshots, and usually 90% of the time they're going to be more than willing to want to just work with you and try out, your services, especially if you have a good portfolio already. So if you have a strong portfolio as a photographer already, it definitely makes the process easier. So a lot of times they can recommend someone for the shoot. But the main reason why you want to have a test shoot is because you want to see exactly how this person, this makeup artist, works not only with you, but with your client. And this is all very important. So here's what you should look for. The first thing you should look for is, obviously, do they understand what headshot makeup is? Because if you're a headshot photographer or a portrait photographer, what we do makeup-wise has very little to do with wedding makeup or Sweet 16 makeup. So you might find a person who does that stuff very well, but if you do wedding makeup or Sweet 16 style makeup on a professional headshot, that will look terrible. So the first thing you want to do is vet the makeup artist to make sure they understand the difference. The second thing you want to do is vet their personality. So I'll give you an example. I had a friend contact me recently and was asking questions about a makeup artist. She's a photographer, and she told me, well, I worked with this person, but they kept interrupting me as I was working with the client, and then they were giving their opinion on photos. Okay, all of this kind of stuff is a huge no. It's a huge hard pass, because the last thing you want in your makeup artist is someone who's going to be, first of all, interacting with your client basically at all outside of the makeup and making sure they're happy with the makeup. But once that's done, it's none of their business, the makeup artist, I should say, to help you do your job. So one of the things to look for in a great makeup artist is, do they know their role in the process? Remember that you're the photographer, you've hired them, basically subcontracted them, even if they're being paid directly by the client, they're still your subcontracted worker. So it's very important that they understand how they fit into the entire process. So if you have a makeup artist who is butting in while you're actually photographing and giving their opinions and making comments to the client, this is someone who you never ever want to work with again, because the last thing you need is someone to be contradicting you and someone to be confusing your client when it comes to helping them choose the right images for them. Another time I had, or another thing that this person I spoke with said is that she was making suggestions to the makeup artist and there was an excuse for everything. And I've seen this before too, where you say, well, I feel like maybe it's a little too heavy around the eyes. And if you say that, a good makeup artist will say, okay, let's change it up a little bit. A bad makeup artist will make excuses for what, well, this is, but this makes her eyes really pop and this and that. All of that you don't want. Again, they need to know that at the end of the day, you as a photographer are the final word on everything. So those are what you want not look for. Those are some of the things to avoid, I should say. Now, a great makeup artist, and I'm going to give you an example from my makeup artist that really made me just appreciate her so much. And I already loved working with her, but there was one situation where I was like, she totally gets it. I love working with her. And here's what happened. So I booked a client from some big company, and I was working with whoever in this company. And yeah, we booked the client, I didn't have the client's name. It was some executive or something. And they asked for makeup. I booked the makeup artist. She shows up, we set up, we're chatting. And then the client walks in, and it's a man, unbeknownst to us. And so both of us are surprised, because generally I don't put makeup on men. We don't work with men's makeup. But of course, that just happened, and it was my mistake, because in hindsight, I should have said to the contracting party, I should have said, well, is it a male or a female that you're sending for makeup? Because it really doesn't matter at the end of the day, but just in my studio, I generally don't use makeup on men. So anyway, we both see this guy walk in, and without skipping a beat, she was like, great, nice to meet you, let's get started, and she knew not to say, oh, we expected a female client. Oh, you're a man? Oh, okay, I got to change some things up. She didn't miss a beat. And it was at that point was like, she's just a total pro. And that's only one of many examples. Another example I can give you is that when I work with her, she will always do what the client asks for. And what I mean by that is, you got to remember, people see themselves very differently than you see them. And there's a lot of women in particular who don't wear a lot of makeup, but they want makeup for a headshot. But the last thing you want is for them to feel like, oh my God, I have all this makeup on. So sometimes, even when it's done subtly, they might say, oh, I just feel like it's too much on my cheeks or something like that. And whatever the question might be, my makeup artist will always be receptive and responsive and say, yeah, okay, let's change it. And then they always leave the chair happy. So these are the kinds of things you want to look for in a great makeup artist. Outside of all of this, obviously, you want someone who's reliable. You want someone who shows up early. My makeup artist is always here 15 to 20 minutes early, sets everything up. She's ready to go. She greets the client with me at the door to my studio. I never have to worry about her strolling in, right at the same time as the client. And these are things that will make or break your success when it comes to makeup. Now, outside of all of that, then obviously you need someone who knows how to do it well. So we're actually putting together a video soon that's going to talk about more specifically like what to look for in good headshot makeup. So we'll give you some actual real world examples of like, this is what you should do when it comes to actually using the makeup. But as I was thinking about that, I said to myself, well, a lot of people don't even know how to find a makeup artist or even what to look for in a makeup artist. So I figured a quick video on that might be helpful to some of you. Now, the last thing I'll say about watching how your makeup artist interacts is you do want some of their feedback. But there's a right and a wrong way to do it. So what I'll do in my studio is once the client is set up and ready to go, I tell them, okay, let's take a couple of shots and we're going to check out your makeup and see if you want any kind of changes. So this puts the makeup artist in the position with me to talk specifically about the makeup. They're not commenting on expressions or poses or clothing, none of that. They're just commenting on how does the makeup look. And so in that case, then it's okay for you and the makeup artist to look at a few photos and say, okay, we might want to tweak this. Or, I mean, the most common things will be, do we want a little more blush? Do we want the cheeks to be a little rosier? Or do we want a little more color on the lips? Sometimes the lip color might be a little bit too plain, and maybe you want a little bit more color on the lips. It'll be things like that. So once you've tweaked the makeup and you've kind of set the makeup and the client is happy, then in my opinion, the makeup artist's job is basically over unless you want to keep them there to do touch-ups. I've found that if the client is careful with changing their clothing, usually you don't even need someone for touch-ups, but that's kind of up to you. And that's basically it. There's some tips to what to look for in a great makeup artist. Let me know if you find this helpful. Definitely subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment. I'm working on some more videos about all these topics and other things that people have asked me. So have a great day, everyone. I'll see you next time. Bye.